So in news, one of the news which Aman shared was review of the legal positions and how the advanced ruling authorities are impacting the business and creating problem for the business. So one similar thing is vis-a-vis the post-sale discounts. So what we'll be doing is we'll be briefing the transaction to you. Then we'll be stating what development vis-a-vis the law is. And then we'll share the recent advanced ruling in case of Santosh distributors, what they have said. So usually the transaction happens at manufacturer. Let us say he sells the goods to distributor at rupees 900. The distributor, he expects that he will earn a margin of 10% or he'll be selling the goods at rupees 1000. However, due to slowdown, due to various reasons, the sale price or even due to competition, the sale price which he's able to fetch is at, let us say, 850. So what happens is that the manufacturer tells the distributor, you sell the goods at 850 and I reimburse you this differential 150 to you. So what he does is he gives a discount, a commercial credit note to the distributor of 150 rupees. In this transaction, till now, no one had a confusion. GST was paid on 850 rupees. GST was paid on 900 rupees. There was one doubt that on 150, GST credit note can be issued, cannot be issued. But that was it. There was no confusion per se on this case. However, recently 2 points which are coming forth in this discussion is, number one, if let us say manufacturer wishes to issue a GST credit note, whether he can validly do so or not. Second, and more importantly, if distributor, when he's selling the goods to dealer at 850 rupees and he's getting commercial credit note of 150 rupees, then is he liable to pay GST on 850 or on 1000? And quite frankly, in my mind, there was no confusion that GST should be paid at 850 only. However, I think we posed a question to our audience that what do you think, on what value should the GST be paid? And audience being a well-read one, they said that 65% of them said that yes, this value should be included in the value of supply and GST should be paid on 1000 rupees. So just to share in this slide, the audience is of the view that GST should be paid on 1000. So we do have an element of surprise or an updation for you guys or our friends that this value, whether it should be 1000, what the thought of the government or the GST council is, and other updates on this. So just to share with you the industry practice, the practice which we diagrammatically presented is that the company supply goods to distributors at a fixed price. In the example 900. They supply the goods, distributors supply the goods at discounted price. In the above example 850. Company reimburses the discounts, the 150 rupee discounts via credit notes. And the distributors, they also discharge GST at a discounted price of 850. How this confusion started is, in 2019, CBIC issued a circular and said that when a discount is offered, compensating the reduction of price. So in the above example, when he decided to reduce this price from 1000 to 850, there is a reduction in price and that is compensated by the company. The circular said that it should be considered as an additional consideration and it should be included in the value of supply. This created ripples across the industry because no dealer, retailer is adding this value which he is getting from his principal in the value of supply. The news reached the GST Council again that this circular, it seems incorrect. What is the purpose behind it? This circular was withdrawn. After withdrawal, there's actually a detailed discussion in the GST Council that what was the purpose of this circular. They stated that if, let us say, a third party who's independent, he gives the consideration, he gives a voucher, because of which the customer is required to pay a discounted price only. So in the above example, let us say the customer pays 850 rupees and 150 rupees is support price given by a third party. Then the transaction value should be 1000, tax should be paid on 1000. But the council meeting states that in this case, wherein the supplier is issuing, That was never the intent to include this value. In fact, they have provided for a draft circular. The draft circular categorically states that in these cases, value should not be included. And that circular was placed before the law committee for a final go-ahead. This draft circular being pending is not available or could not be relied by the taxpayers. However, I think if the 65% of the audience who said that this value is to be included do place reliance on the draft circular or pursue this draft circular, that percentage would definitely reduce. Now, coming back to the ruling which came in case of Santosh Distributors. So while the GST Council stated or directed the officers to stay put for now, not to raise any recovery, the ruling, advance ruling, the issue raised before the AAAR authority, and they said that the discount was not pre-established. The agreement merely refers to a discount and there was no parameter. The distributor had no control over the quantum of discount, and therefore the discount cannot be reduced from the value. This part we say is to a large extent right and needs to be seen on the facts of the case whether the discount, the pre-communication of the discount can be established or not. However, in these facts, if let us say the pre-communication was not established, in that case, the manufacturer cannot issue a GST credit note to the distributor. This part of the ruling, we don't have a problem or we agree. However, the last part which the ruling said is that the discount which is reimbursed by the principal manufacturer qualifies to be a third-party consideration and exigible to GST. This is a tricky issue because in this case, all the retailers, distributor, dealers who are getting a discount reimbursement or who are giving a discount because they know they'll be getting a subsequent discount from the manufacturer, the valuation would get challenged. And now, to everyone's surprise or just updating everyone, there's even an Australian ruling on the same point, which is in line with the Santosh Distributor AAAR. The ruling states that since the amount is being compensated by the manufacturer and it is after the sale transaction, this amount would be considered as an additional consideration. However, in our view, both this ruling of Santosh Distributors or this Australian ruling in the case of AP Group, they missed one point that they are treating these two transactions of whether it's a discount or an additional consideration independently. One needs to see it in tandem. And if, let us say, this commercial credit note of 150, this is a valid discount provided by the manufacturer to the distributor, then it cannot simultaneously qualify to be an additional consideration. And that is what the true nature of the transaction, a discount given by the manufacturer and not an additional consideration. Having said this, we believe that this AAAR now would open a Pandora box and would create disputes for industries across automobile, FMCG, consumer durable, and any other industry wherein these discounts are given. This ruling would bring a doubt in the mind of the department and they may start issuing notices to taxpayers for this. Let's hope the draft circular is finalized soon by the GST Council and issued. So this was our discussion on post-sale discount. Now we'll be briefly discussing other important rulings which have come during the last month. First, again, a very important ruling has come on classification on seat parts. That is the Suzuki Auto Component Supreme Court order. In this, the Supreme Court dismissed the application SLP filed by the department on classification of seat parts. So since it's a dismissal order, it's important to understand what the SESTAT said. SESTAT said that the part of the seats are covered or classified under heading 9401. The reason why they said is that 9401 is specifically covers seats by nomenclature. So while they said that note 2 of the relevant section note of parts of automobiles, while they do not exclude seat, if a part is covered specifically by name in another heading, it would remain to be covered there. And the SESTAT also referred to the explanatory notes of heading 8708, which says that, and which takes an example of seat part in fact, that let us say seats, window panes or some other articles, since they are covered by name in some other heading, they'll remain to be classified in that heading and will not be covered under part and accessories of motor vehicle or part of accessories of two-wheelers by under 8708 or 8714. Why this ruling is very important is that this order has come post the Westinghouse decision. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be holding a detailed webinar on Westinghouse. We'll be discussing the intricacies of this. But this gives a ray of hope to the taxpayers that there is a possibility to distinguish Westinghouse and state that the classification of parts would remain in other heading and not under 8708. Because 8708, it usually attracts a higher rate of custom duty, a higher rate of GST. Therefore, taxpayers also are attempting that it can get classified under other headings if legally valid, and this ruling would go a long way in supporting that. The next ruling, another interesting ruling, is on interest of levy of belated cash payment. So the facts of this case was that petitioner availed some ITC, and that ITC was alleged as wrongly availed. Petitioner said, fine, I'll reverse the ITC, but I'll reverse partly through cash because he had inadequate ITC balance and balance through ITC. Now, the ruling, one very important point which we have been focusing time and again is, if you have to levy interest, there has to be a specific provision. Now, if you guys see section 50 subsection 3, it very briefly states that interest under section 40, in case of 4210, that is mismatch, or 4310, that is again mismatch, interest can be levied. However, there is no specific provision for wrongly availed ITC. So the decision said that to the extent of credit component, no interest can be levied because 42 can be applicable only in case of mismatch and not in other cases. Then they said that interest is compensatory and therefore for the cash element, interest would be leviable. So again, highlighting that for the first part, for the first 2 points, we believe the High Court has correctly held that interest can be levied. 42 section deals with mismatch, and the relevant section 50 subsection 3 refers to only interest in case of mismatch. And the second part we don't agree because there are other Supreme Court judgments which have said that there has to be a specific provision for interest. So if we read section 50 threadbare, we will not find any provision for section mismatch of ITC or for wrongly availed ITC. Therefore, even if a taxpayer has wrongly availed ITC, he can very well refer to this judgment and state that there is no interest liability on him. Next is on intermediary service. Again, I'll say an industry-wide issue. So in this case, Airbus India, they were giving procurement operation services to their foreign entity. And they were actually dealing with the vendors, analyzing the parts, giving quotations, and helping Airbus India finalize the vendors. Then Airbus France used to get procurements directly from Indian parties. The question on the ground was because our agreement with the France entity is on principal to principal basis. We cannot be intermediary because intermediary is an agent. In this case, the advance ruling said that while your agreement with France is on principal to principal basis, it is not relevant to determine intermediary, and rightfully so. You guys can very note that when the intermediary refers to an agent, they don't refer to vis-a-vis the principal. They refer that when you are dealing with the third parties. So in this case, let us say when Airbus India would be dealing with the Indian vendors, they would be dealing as a representative or an agent of the France entity and not as a principal that I want to buy goods. So vis-a-vis the Indian suppliers or Indian customers, they need to be agents and not vis-a-vis France entity. Then they acknowledge that yes, the transaction actually is relating to provision of supply by Indian vendors to France entity, and therefore it qualifies to be an intermediary. In our view, the ruling is correct, and they have rightly interpreted the relationship of agency between which parties it needs to exist and what bouquet of services would qualify to be intermediary. Now coming into another ruling, advanced ruling of CHEP India. In this case, the Karnataka unit was transferring assets on lease to other units in other states. The question was whether this transfer is supply of the assets or is it provision of lease service. The ruling rightly held that it's the provision of service. While these units are stated in different states, this asset transfer is not control and possession transfer to the units in other states. It's only that the goods have been given on lease, and after completion of lease, they will be brought back. So they said that it's a provision of lease service. Because it's a provision of service and goods are being transferred, they need to be sent on lease and delivery challan will be issued in this case. And since the recipient units are eligible to avail full ITC of the lease rentals, any value can be adopted for leasing services. Moving to the last judgment of High Court, and a very interesting one again. In this case, the High Court accepted that, let us say, the monthly contributions which you take from members. Let us say in a particular case it is 10,000. So the question looming, Raj, over these associations was whether GST is to be paid on 2,500 or entire 10,000. And why did this question arise was because there was an exemption up to rupees 7,500. So the High Court said that the exemption notification uses the words up to. Therefore, only contribution in excess of 7,500 is liable to be taxed. The circular they was issued which said that in case of collection of 10,000, entire 10,000 is to be taxed. The court held that the circular is against the express language of the exemption notification. And even if the, let us say, contribution is 10,000, only 2,500 would be taxable. Now, in this case, there was another issue which was there, which was whether association or member becomes different legal entities or not. The Supreme Court under service tax had analyzed and held that no, they will not become separate entities. But recently in the Finance Act, you must be knowing that the CGST Act was amended, that too retrospectively, stating that between association and members, between society and members, any activity would be deemed to be supply. So in this case also, we will not be surprised that they bring in another retrospective amendment to state that this exemption notification should be read as always being taxing an amount, entire amount of 10,000 and not only 2,500 that is above 7,500. So this is it for other rulings. Now covering the synopsis of what we discussed or the takeaway of the sessions. I think the two key highlights of the session can be, one, the post-sale discounts, the ruling of Santosh Enterprises, whether that would bring in another another Pandora box, it would bring in further disputes or not. And second is the extension of limitation period. Because the circular is so cryptic, so and it says that it would not be applicable to original proceedings. We believe it is just opening another floodgate of litigation, and the taxpayers and the authorities would then again be in a challenge of whether Supreme Court order would proceed, how the circular is interpreting the order, and these things. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining.